There were reports that you were trying to get a move to Arsenal at one point. Didn't happen, but you did find yourself at another London club, the blue one, Chelsea. How about that? I mean, one of the biggest clubs in England.
Yeah, no, it was funny because obviously 2010 Arsenal had come in for me. So Roy was still at the club at the time, and we obviously got to the European Cup final, which we unfortunately lost to Atletico Madrid. But hindsight's an incredible thing, you know, 2 unbelievable runs in Europe with Middlesbrough and Fulham, and I still look back at those 2 moments, even though we lost the final and it's not great, but they still go down as some of the incredible, proudest moments in my career because, you know, you tell anyone, Fulham and Middlesbrough made European Cup finals. And
for fans of the club as well, I should add. I mean, those would be special days.
Who would ever think in their wildest dreams that a Fulham or a Middlesbrough would make a European Cup final? So, you know, there were amazing nights, amazing journeys, amazing seasons. Like, it was just unbelievable. So, yeah, and then 2010, I had an opportunity. Arsenal had come in for me, and Roy rang me and said to me, look, we've had an offer from Arsenal, or the Arsenal, he called them, and said, I wanted to know whether or not, you know, I thought I'd do the respect and ask you whether or not you wanted to go. And I went, I was just like, I almost didn't know what to say. And I said to Roy in the end, I said, look, Roy, I found myself saying to him, like, appreciating and thanking him and saying how amazing the time was, to then saying, but it's, like you said, the Arsenal. It's an opportunity to try and contest for things, to play in European football and play at an elite club. And I said, of course I want to go. And he said, yeah, that's what I thought. So he said, like, we're going to get, before you go, we'll make it happen. He said to me, we'll make it happen, but before you go, we need to make sure we've got an adequate replacement, which we'll find and be fine. And I said, okay, that'd be brilliant. So went off and played the World Cup and thought everything was sweet, and then Roy went to Liverpool.
Yeah.
And it killed it, because then everything went quiet. We didn't have a manager. The manager didn't get appointed until a week before the start of the season. So it just went on the whole summer and nothing was happening. And then I basically, you know, got to a point where I was trying to force them to move through, because I wanted to go. It was an unbelievable opportunity. I was 37 years old. You know, they were prepared to pay £4 million for me, which was ridiculous for a 37-year-old. But then Fulham wanted 10 million for him. Fayed was telling me, no, look, they don't appreciate you. If they don't pay 10 million for you, you're not going. And I'm like, but I'm 37 years old. Like, it's crazy. And he goes, well, they don't appreciate you. And so it was just his way of going, look, you're not going because we don't want to lose you, and we can't replace you at this moment in time. We're not going to let you go. Long story, obviously Mark Hughes comes in. My first conversation with him is, hey, going Gaffer, nice to meet you, but I want to leave. Arsenal have come in for me. So, and he, eventually we got to the point where he said to me, look, I've got one replacement for you. If I can bring him in, you can go. If not, you're not going. And so I said, like, who was it? And he goes, Shay Given. And I went, okay. And he goes, if he doesn't come, you can't go now. I said, well, that's not good enough.
Yeah, of course.
And that's what it was like. And I ended up falling out with as many people as I possibly could to try and force the deal through. And I've never done it in my career ever before, but I was desperate. And they didn't let it happen, didn't happen. And in the end, I re-signed at Fulham. And look, I don't regret it. I do, but I don't. It was out of my hands. I tried everything I possibly could to make it happen within reason. And I stayed there, and I have no regrets whatsoever, even though I didn't enjoy, certainly my last 2 seasons at Fulham were nowhere near as enjoyable as the first 2 seasons were. So I had 5 years there. The 3rd season was okay. I enjoyed it. The 4th and 5th, I didn't enjoy that much. And they were very tough. And but then obviously at the end of my time there, again, they were at the point, and I get it. Look, I was 40 years old, and they were saying, look, we're trying to decide on what we're going to do. They hadn't made their mind up, but they didn't want to tell me. So that was the disappointment as well. And the way it ended was really disappointing. And then obviously, out of one disappointment, an opportunity opens up, and I had a chance to go to Chelsea, which I was reluctant to do so, believe it or not.
Reluctant?
Yeah.
Any reason why?
Well, I wasn't going to play.
Okay, yeah, that's
I was 40 years old, and I'd been playing up until that point, and I was not going to be number one, right? And of course I wasn't going to be number one at Chelsea. I knew that I wasn't going to be number one, and I was told that, of course. But that was hard to swallow. Not that I wasn't going to be number one at Chelsea, but that I wasn't going to play. So I was kind of like, well, what other options do I have? Where can I go? What can I do? And there was a couple of other options, but they were too far away, and I didn't want to travel. I didn't want to leave my family. And my wife was like, look, this gives you everything. It gives you an opportunity to play in European football, play Champions League football potentially. You might get a chance to play.
Well, you did. You played in semis even.
Well, yeah. And she said, look, you've never played it in your career. You've always said that your one regret is that you've never played Champions League football. And I said, yeah. So you've got a chance to potentially, because there was no guarantees I was going to play, that you tick a box. You may win a title. Yeah. And it's Chelsea. It's around the corner. You don't have to move. It's closer than Fulham's training ground. All those things. And they want you. Jose Mourinho wants you. And I'm like, yeah. So I say it that I signed reluctantly, but I didn't sign reluctantly. But it was more about in my own head, because I was playing all the time, knowing that the first game of the season I'll be sitting on the bench watching the game and having year after year previously played every time. Being in a club where you know that you're going to play, or at least have a really good chance to play. Going to a club where you have zero chance of playing unless he's injured, or the manager decides that to rotate for just giving you some game time. But I don't regret it, because yes, I played Champions League football. I played at an amazing club, like phenomenal club, and it was an incredible experience. I played with some unbelievable players, and I have zero regret about it. But at the time, it was just one of those things that was playing in my head, and that competitive nature of wanting to play every week and knowing that that wasn't going to happen anymore. And the reality is you're 40 years old, and of course it's going to happen at some stage. And it's ridiculous that I was still playing week in, week out at 40 years old.
Yeah.
So it was just, it was the battle I was having in my own head about, I'm not playing every week now.
Okay.
And that was the hard thing.
The Gerrard slip.
Yeah.
You were on the pitch at Anfield that day, weren't you?
I was, yeah. The thing about the whole Chelsea experience as well is that when I signed, I had a lot of conversations with Jose about it, and said to him, look, I was still playing for the national team at the time, and I wanted to go to Brazil, the World Cup, and we'd qualify for the World Cup, and I really needed to play enough games. I needed to be in the right shape to have played games, and that was my big problem as well. So I said to Jose, I said, look, my biggest dilemma is this. I said, look, it goes without saying it's Chelsea and everything else, and I'd love to play for you and love to be at the club, and it's an amazing club. But my worry is about playing enough games to be ready to play and fit to play at the World Cup next year. And but that'll be it, my last World Cup. And he said, look, you will play enough games here. I will make sure you play enough games. He said, look, Petter has had a lot of injury issues over the years. He doesn't play, over the years average, I think he missed like 10 games, 12 games a season, minimum. Some seasons even more. He says, I will make sure you play enough games. So, okay. So it came to like December time, and I hadn't actually played very many games. Petter wasn't injured. He was never injured. It was like, I came and he didn't get injured. It was like, I take it as a compliment. I take it as a compliment because he looked at me and went, he's 40 years old, 41 years old. How can I not train, not play if he's playing all the time and training all the time? And that's, he said it to me often. He said to me, whenever I felt tired, I looked at you and saw you doing the drills and went, he's 41 years old. I'm 30, I can't remember, it was 32 or 33. He goes, how can I say I'm tired? So I take it as a compliment that I've pushed him and made sure he didn't. Motivated him to keep going, I suppose. So yeah, but yeah, to play for Chelsea, to play Champions League football, to make my debut in the Champions League football, played against Steaua Bucharest at home in the league, in the final group game, was an incredible experience. But even more so playing obviously in the semi-final, which happened through Petter getting injured, ironically. But I loved it. I mean, the game in Madrid is one of my favourite games to have played. Funny enough, like it's just the moment of coming on in a Champions League semi-final. But the way the game played out, it was perfect for me. Had a lot of crosses to take, the physical aspect of it against a very dogged Atletico side. Diego Costa up front. There was a lot of argy-bargy fighting. You know, it was great. I loved it. It was amazing. Amazing atmosphere, amazing experience. And to come away with a 0-0 and played well in the game was nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is Jose anything like we saw in the documentary?
Yeah.
He's like that?
He's everything. He's everything everything you see on the sideline, on the TV. And then there's the documentary, you see a softer side of him. You've seen the moment with Dele Alli talking to him about regret and not regretting things, and I feel that you'll regret. That's what he's like. He's got that very human aspect to him, a very caring, thoughtful, and wanting to help side of him as well.
Yeah.
A lot of the other stuff is a put on. There's a
bravado.
There's a image he wants to portray, but he's also got that very soft side. And if he likes you and you do the right thing by him and you work for him and you give him everything and he knows you're giving him everything, you're doing your absolute best all the time, he has the utmost respect for you. And he's brilliant to work with. But he's also got a ruthless side to him. So he's got that at training. I remember one time at training, we were doing some drills and doing together with the outfield players, and I made a mistake. Didn't say anything. I made a mistake again. He stopped it. He went berserk. Tore shreds off me. Yeah. But that's the demand of the level he was expecting from people. And like, he was like, okay, you can get away with it once, but not the second time. That's unacceptable. And he tore shreds off me. But the thing is, he is of that ilk. He wants to be able to tell you, and the manager should be able to tell you that. He should be able to put you under pressure. And it's about how you respond to it. And that's where you even gain more respect from him. So if you roll your sleeves up, you get angry, but you roll your sleeves up and you go, right, I'm going to prove you wrong. And I'm not going to make that mistake again. And you do that, he has more respect for you, as opposed to sulking, as opposed to going in your shell, getting upset with him. That's where he loses respect for you. That's where he has a problem with it. And that's where I think he's had problems with a lot of players.
Okay.